To understand Islam and the Muslim world more, buy my book, The Curse of God, Why I Left Islam. Available in all your favorite online bookstores. Like the Big Bang verse I debunked earlier, in their quest to prove the Quran is a book from God, the second most favorite claim of Muslim apologists is that the Quran explained the whole embryology process 1400 years ago. This is a terrible claim, but like most of the other claims, most Muslims don't understand the context of the verse. They have probably never even read the verse and have just simply heard it from someone like Zakir Naik, and they start clapping. Before I debunk the infamous embryology verse, let's look at another verse on the subject of embryology, or human reproduction system, just to understand how the inventor or inventors of Islam actually taught. He was created from a fluid ejected, emerging from between the backbone and the ribs. Quran, chapter 86, verse 6 to 7. So basically, Allah, which is actually Muhammad, is saying that a man was created from a fluid, which is semen, that emerges from the backbone and the ribs. We know sperm form in the testicles, or commonly referred as balls in men. The horrible mistake here Muhammad made is that he didn't copy the Greeks like in many other instances. For example, the ancient Greek anatomist Herophilus, born in 335 BC, after dissecting various human samples, detailed digestive system, respiratory system, and of course, reproductive system. He was the first person to say that spermatozoon, which is commonly referred as sperm, is produced in the testes of a male. This very word, spermatozoon, is a Greek word for seed. According to Muhammad, this is where sperm is produced. Who would have known that we had testicles hidden between our ribs and backbone? This is obviously false. Ancient kings have been castrating males for thousands of years just to make sure that they cannot make babies. But Muhammad was probably aware of the function of the testes, but he thought this fluid must originate from somewhere else. Where could that be? Maybe between the elbow joints, maybe between the knee joints, maybe in the brain. Well, let's just make up something. Backbone and the ribs. That's what Muhammad did. Now let's go to another verse. Had he not been a sperm from semen emitted, then he was a clinging clot, and Allah created his form and proportioned him, and made him of two mates, the male and the female. Quran, chapter 75, verse 37 to 39. This second verse is claiming that after the ejaculation of semen, it becomes a clinging clot, and then the sex of the baby is determined. Obviously, this is incorrect, as the sex of the baby is determined at the very moment of the conception, not after the clinging clot or whatever that is. This claim of the Quran is also backed up by this Sahih Hadith. The Prophet said, "At every womb, Allah appoints an angel who says, 'O Lord, a drop of semen. O Lord, a clot. O Lord, a little lump of flesh.' And then, if Allah wishes to complete its creation, the angel asks, 'O Lord, will it be a male or a female, a wretched or a blessed? And how much will his provisions be? And what will his age be?' So all that is written while the child is still in the mother's womb." So basically, this hadith confirms that the sex of the baby is determined after the initial embryological development stages. Again, I don't have to say it is obviously false. Rest of the hadith just confirms a mythological and nonsensical nature of Islam. Once the sex of the baby is determined, Allah decides how long this human will survive. Will he be good or bad? This also shows how a person who becomes evil doesn't have a free will. Allah has already made him evil. How is that his fault? If I make a faulty machine, is it my fault for making a faulty machine? Or it is the fault of the machine for being faulty? Think about it. These simple philosophical questions debunk the claims of Islam very easily, and no sane person should take Islam seriously. Now let's get to the business end of this video. And certainly did we create man from an extract of clay. Then we placed him as a sperm drop in a firm lodging. Then we made the sperm drop into a clinging clot. And we made the clot into a lump of flesh. And we made from the lump bones, and we covered the bones with flesh. Then we developed him into another creation. So blessed is Allah, the best of creators. Quran, chapter 23, verse 12 to 14. So basically, Allah is saying He created the first humans, Adam and Eve, with clay. But once that process started, He no longer had to keep making humans with clay, now that He has introduced the sexual reproduction system. Amazing. Now this sperm is lodging firmly inside a womb. This sperm then turns into a clot, and then it turns into a flesh and bones, and boom, you have a human. Now, most people don't know what happens inside the belly. We can see it gradually growing from a flat stomach to a balloon stomach, so baby must be growing inside. The real question is, what forms first when the baby is developing? Is it the heart, the ears, the lungs, the skin, or the bones? What is it? If Allah wants to prove to us that He knows everything, then tell us something that we don't know. It's a pretty fair demand, right? This is what Muhammad tried to do by giving us the step-by-step points on baby's development. A lot of Muslims actually view this as a real process of child development inside the mother's womb. There are two ways of looking at this verse. Number one, as a layperson who doesn't know the details but can observe from the outside without going into too much detail. Like, for example, if I told you this is a mobile phone, you can speak to someone on the other side of the planet thanks to the satellite. You will use it and it would make sense to you, but you would not know how the radio waves interact with the satellite or any of the other details unless you are an expert. So yes, just let's look at the embryology as that layperson. Number two, a more critical analysis in light of modern knowledge. So here's a summary of what Muhammad said. Sperm goes inside and secures itself in a place inside a woman's belly. Well, nothing special so far, as anyone would know that, right? Number two, the Quran tells us it turns into a clinging clot, like some sort of a flesh, a dot. There are hundreds of different interpretations. The point is, it's nothing special. Number three, then it becomes a lump of flesh, and then bones. Number four, new baby. If you look at this verse, there's absolutely nothing special in it. Any person with half a brain could see it or imagine it. Where are the details like heart forms first and then the brain or ears or lungs? Nope, no details, just vague steps. Some Muslims will say whatever it is, at least it's correct. Interesting thing is, even these details are wrong. Now let's look into it in our second way, which was critical analysis in light of modern knowledge. Remember, these were the four basic steps that explained the embryology in the Quran. Sperm, clinging clot, flesh and bones, new baby. First of all, first step is wrong. Sperm doesn't just go in and finds itself a nice comfortable seat inside a woman's belly to recline on. Sperm goes inside and then races towards a woman's egg. And there are millions of other sperms that are competing to reach that woman's egg. Then form zygote. None of this is mentioned in the Quran. It's like saying a bullet goes inside a person and kills it. Details matter. You have to tell a bullet goes in and ruptures the heart or a liver or lung or whatever. That is what kills a person. Because a bullet can go in a person and may not kill. Again, details matter. And since Muhammad didn't have these details, he just said the obvious. Secondly, clinging clot. This is another false description. There is no clot. There is no blood at early stages. This is why modern apologists like Zakir Naik and Harun Yahya recognize this and change the whole meaning of this verse. They say Allah meant leech by alaka, which traditionally in early scholars' dictionary means a clinging clot. Look at what the early scholars like Ibn Kathir said about it. Then we made the nutfa, which is sperm, into a clot, which is alaka. Even Ibn Abbas, the cousin of Muhammad, the earliest tafsir, he said, then we transformed the drop, which is sperm, into a clot for another 40 days. There's no mention of leech anywhere in the earliest tafsirs because clot is such an incorrect description of an early embryo. Modern Muslim apologists did what they do best, twist and turn the verse, and they said Allah meant leech. Okay, you must be a stubborn Muslim and say, no, it must be a leech. Let's go with that. This is what these Muslim apologists show you when they say an embryo looks like a leech. In reality, a 24 to 25 day embryo looks something like this. You see what Muslim apologists do there? In order to make the verse compatible with the modern science, not only did they change the meaning of alaka from clot to leech, but they also changed the shape of the embryo to make it look like a leech. On the left, you have a photo of a 25 to 26 day embryo, according to modern science. On the right, you have a photo of a 25 to 26 day embryo, according to these Muslim apologists. Can you confidently say both of these embryos look the same? They removed the heart, they stretched the embryo, and they straightened it to make it look like a leech. As a Muslim, you might be getting frustrated and probably now believe that alaka meant both clot and a leech, even though, as I said, the embryo looks nothing like a leech. Ask yourself, why did God use a word that could be so easily confused with clot and leech? In reality, this 24-day embryo looks more like a kidney rather than a leech. So why did Allah not say it looked like a kidney or a bean? To be honest, Muhammad didn't mean leech, and I have a strong reason to believe that. He meant a clot. Why? I'll explain it in the last part of the video. Now let's come to the third point. Muhammad in the Quran says he created flesh and then bones. This is also false. You can ask any embryologist who would tell you that flesh and bones start forming simultaneously. It is not a sequential step, it's a simultaneous step. If you want to ponder on this point, you can watch my detailed debate with Nader Ahmed on my YouTube channel. As you can see, all three steps mentioned in the Quran are actually false. Now let's look at another remarkable coincidence in this situation. Meet a Greek physician, Galen, who died in 210 AD, some 400 years before Muhammad. The funny thing is, he said exactly the same thing, only difference is, Galen said it 400 years before Muhammad did. Let's look at Galen's step. Sperm, blood, flesh and bones, baby. Let's look at the steps of both Galen and Muhammad side by side. The only difference is Galen used the word blood, whereas Muhammad used the word clot. Clot is commonly referred to as blood anyway. This is why I earlier said that Muhammad probably meant clot rather than a leech. Since Muhammad copied rest of Galen's work, there is a good reason to believe that he copied this step as well. The problem with copying is that the person you're copying from, if he gets it wrong, you get it wrong too. And that's exactly what happened with Muhammad. What Galen wrote is a little more in detail than I have time in this video. You can buy my book, The Curse of God, Why I Left Islam, to read this in detail along with many other scientific problems in the Quran. In conclusion of the video, Muhammad copied Galen to explain embryology. Galen missed out on a lot of details and got a lot of details wrong. Just like the original source, the copier also got it wrong. Embryology in the Quran is vague at best, but outright false at worst. Thank you for watching the video. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon. If you like this video and want to support my work, please support me on Patreon or follow me on Twitter.